So this is Taranum Yogesh Dobriyal, and I am super excited to have Dr. Stanley Krippner share his most amazing experiences with us today. And I would start off with a few questions. But before that, would you want to tell anything to us? You would want to share anything that you personally would want to let us know? Please go ahead, and the stage is yours, Dr.
Well,
Krippner.
now that you're giving me the chance, I will be very happy to tell you about a book that a student of mine just published.
Oh wow, that looks amazing. Could you give me more details about the same? What is it about? And what
Yes,
would entice people to read about dream medicine?
it's
Because
a
I think that, if when I think about the terminology dream medicine, it takes me back to the sleeping prophet.
well, I'm just looking at the table of contents, and it has to do one chapter, but
Oh,
there's another
amazing.
chapter on dream yoga
Wow.
and another chapter on self-hypnosis,
Wow.
another chapter on lucid dreaming, another on dream incubation,
Fantastic.
yes, ancestral work, and intuitive development.
Wow.
Yes, so it really covers topics you will not find in many similar books about dreams.
Yes. And Dr. Krippner, is it available on Amazon or is it in
Yes,
Kindle edition?
it's very recent, but it should be on Amazon by now. Yes, yes.
Fantastic. So I'm going to be posting that link as well so that people can go ahead and purchase this copy immediately. And I'm going to for sure buy one for myself because the topic really sounds interesting.
Oh, yes, I think you'll find it extremely interesting. Right, right.
Fantastic. I will also give it as part of my course. During my course also I will share the details of this book, and I will ask people to, purchase it and read it as well.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, doctor. Okay, so my first question is uh how did you actually get involved in parapsychological research? What intrigued you? How did you develop your curiosity? I would want to know more about you.
Actually, when I was about 10 or 11 years of age, I was in my bedroom and I had the sudden realization that my Uncle Max had just died. My Uncle Max was only 40 years of age. He'd been in good health. And so there was really no logical reason that I would have that realization. And then a moment later, I heard screams from the downstairs, and I went downstairs, and my mother was in tears, said, "Oh, your Uncle Max has just died." Yes, it was a very sudden heart attack, came out of nowhere. And so this is what got me interested in the topic, how one could know things that there was no logical explanation for them knowing.
Wow. Yes.
So then I started to read about the topic, and eventually I started to do work on the topic. So one thing just led to another.
How amazing is that? I have had a similar experience, except that in my case, it was my father. And I knew 2 months before my father passed away that he would die. And that's the kind of information that came to me while I was sleeping. And I had an astral out of body experience where my grandfather's spirit actually spoke to me and he told me that my father would die in a couple of months' time. Yes.
But at least you were a little bit prepared for the sadness.
Yes, I was prepared for the sadness. I was prepared to take on, manage the entire family because my mother was a housewife and I had a younger sibling to manage. So I was quite prepared.
You sure were, right.
Sure, you've had more experiences while you are researching and, you get to know more about the parapsychological aspects, and I'm sure that you've done tons and tons of research, Dr. Krippner. So, what is one of the most amazing experience that you would have had while you were in the research? Doing research, and I think that you've done a lot of research on dream telepathy as well, right?
Yes. Well, yes, I can give you one example. Of course, there were very many examples. There was a medical student who volunteered for our studies. This was back in New York City at the Maimonides Medical Center in Brooklyn. And he had been taking a course on out of body experience, and he wanted to volunteer for the laboratory. And so we arranged for him to participate in a 4-night study where we'd monitor his dreams. And then he would try to get out of the body during a dream. And each night we had a different picture on a ledge above his bed. And it was high enough so he could not stand up and look at it. He would have to go out of the body to look at it. We also had somebody trying to send him a telepathic target from another room. And so we gave him 2 chances of coming up with unusual knowledge. One of them by telepathy, one of them through out-of-body experience. So the first 3 nights, nothing much happened in terms of having an out-of-body experience. But on the 4th night, there were some very strange tracings on the EEG, very, very slow brainwaves, which you typically do not get while a person is dreaming. And then he said, I've just been out of the body. And the picture on the ledge is a picture of a beautiful sunset.
Wow.
And that's exactly what it was. The picture was a painting called Memories of a Perfect Sunset.
Wow.
And people do not dream about sunsets very often, maybe once 200 or 300 times. So then he went to medical school, and so we didn't have a chance to work with him again.
Wow, how amazing. Thank you for sharing that, doctor. I'm so profound that even as I'm listening to this experience, it's giving me goosebumps. So it's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And who inspired you the most during your formative years and into research? Uh, whose books would you recommend that we read more and we get more information on different aspects of parapsychological research? If we were to start from from the basics, where does one start?
Well, it depends. If a person is just starting or if a person is fairly advanced. Now, for somebody who is just starting, I would recommend that they check out the book by Harvey Irwin. He's an Australian psychologist. Harvey Irwin and Carolyn Watt, she is a British psychologist.
Yes, I have been interacting with Caroline Watts recently.
Yeah. Oh, fine. Yes, yes. So, uh, so that book would be a good beginning. Now, if people are advanced, I'll recommend my own books, Advances in Parapsychological Research.
All right.
Volume 10 just came out.
Volume 10. Amazing.
Yeah,
I
there
think
are
that's amazing.
10 volumes, but as I say, they're not for the beginner. They're for people who are more advanced in the
More
field.
advanced in the field. Correct.
Yes, yes.
Thank you, Dr. Krippner. I will make a note of that too. And is there anything else that you would want to share? I also want to get into research. The research till now has been just on my own because in India, you don't have too many colleges teaching parapsychological courses here. And so all that I had to do was go about searching for things on my own, except for, consciousness studies and where they're teaching consciousness or they're talking about Krishna consciousness in India. I know of a doctor in Nimhans in Bangalore who has been working on past lives and all of those aspects. But in psychology, what I understand is that we don't talk about mediums and spirits because you cannot quantify the spirit, right? So uh, I would like to know your take on spirits and even aliens, maybe, if you can give us some, if you have had any experiences where people or even you yourself have connected with souls from the other side or even from the alien planets out there.
Well, you first of all have to realize that, and I hope your viewers know this too, parapsychology is very controversial. And so a course on parapsychology should also cover the critics of parapsychology. Now, in our most recent advances volume, we have a whole chapter devoted to criticisms of parapsychology.
Amazing.
Yes, because we think that people should know both sides of the issue, and they should know the position that critics are taking. The one issue we're talking about in this volume is a very, very famous by now criticism that appeared in the Journal of the American Psychologist. And the author simply said, there's no sense even talking about the experiments because telepathy could not possibly exist. And because it cannot possibly exist, all of the research must be flawed. So you might think that that's a very extreme position, but that's very typical of the type of criticism that parapsychologists have to face.
True.
Now, it's for this reason that many parapsychologists do not talk about spirits or ghosts or mediums.
True.
But frankly, that is beginning to change because now there are some very good research studies done with mediums, and the mediums are coming up with information that's accurate. Now, we cannot jump to the conclusion that they're getting this from a discarnate entity, somebody who's on the other side. Yes, that might be, but there might be some other ways they're getting that information also. Maybe they're highly intuitive. Maybe they have good telepathy themselves. We don't know. But the point I'm making is that after many years of being absent from the experiments, mediums are now playing a very, very vital role in the experiments. There's a society called the Windbridge Institute, and they're doing probably the most advanced research right now with mediums. Windbridge is Windbridge. They have their entry webpage on the internet. You could look it up.
Sure.
But in the meantime, I've done my own recent study on the topic that I'll tell your viewers about. And this was not with a professional medium, but it was about a young woman who seemed to have some mediumistic capacities. She worked with the U.S. Army in the state of Virginia as an events planner. She would help plan events for the military and their families. And she worked with a chaplain. The chaplain was Native American, and he came from a line of medicine people and shamans, but he was not talented himself along those lines. So what happened is that his colleague, the woman who we'll call Amanda, had a dream about a U.S. Army soldier who'd been killed in Afghanistan. And he came back and he said, this is the company I was with, and this is the city we were near. And she took that information and she took it to her friend, the chaplain, and he said, well, he gave his first name and the company in the city, and that's all I know. I know who he was. And I know I had to write the letter to his parents when he was killed. So the chaplain did know him. So we went through 10 different dreams. And on each of those nights, a young man some of them as young as 18 or 19, would come through in her dream and would give enough information so that she and the chaplain could track them down. And
Oh,
sometimes they would describe the insignia on their uniform. Sometimes they would describe a photograph that the chaplain had. Always enough information so it could be tracked down. And so then he was reassigned to South Korea. So that ended the partnership. But at that time, I wrote up all 10 of those dreams, and it's published in the Journal for Psychical Research. And so it's now available for anybody to read who wants to read it.
wow. That sounds so profound. And I'm sure it's helped a lot of families heal and go through that grief because of that.
This was a frustration for us because we were faced with the task: should we tell the surviving parents and family members that their son is okay on the other side? But we couldn't really do that because this would have gotten the chaplain into trouble. And
Okay.
we didn't want him to be censured or lose his job because he was messing around with spirits, even though he came from a long line of medicine people himself. And so we simply decided to publish the results and hope that some of the people would have had similar experiences, and this would give them some sort of relief and some
Right.
sort of condolences.
Yes, I think Dr. Krippner, I think in India, we come with that culture. So we are taught about karma, we're taught about life after death, and we talk a lot about spirits. The culture per se, we believe a lot in life after death and spirit entities. So it becomes, I think, quite easy for families out here to get their belief system saying that, okay, fine, someone has passed away and I'm getting a message. In fact, I do get a lot of cases where people want to talk to their loved ones and they ask me. So I usually avoid becoming a medium because I want to focus more in terms of telepathy and all the mainstream focus of watching auras, looking at aura colors and everything. But yes, when mediumship happens, there is always this doubt even in my own head that, is this really true? Am I making this up? Or I can see an outline, I can see a perception, and I can see the outline of that body. Like now my mom is passed on to the other side last year, and I can sense her and I can see her, and I know that she's okay, so it helps me with the grieving process. But yes, I think a lot of other cultures where people don't want to discuss or talk about the afterlife, and they wish that there is no such thing as afterlife. It does, I think, get difficult to convey these messages to them. But just in case, if we could all do that, I think it would be so beautiful to help people heal and get out of the grief and get out of depression easily. Wouldn't it be so?
Well, yes, this is something that we have in the United States. They're called grief counselors. And these are counselors and therapists who work with somebody who has lost a loved one.
Yeah.
And so this information is especially pertinent to the grief counselors.
Correct.
Also, I should mention to your viewers, I have been to India several times and have given many lectures to psychology students and psychology
Wow.
departments. And what I have to tell them is, don't neglect the psychological tradition in India. India has a long history of consciousness studies,
True.
working not only with dreams, but also with different types of healing, different types of meditation. And don't turn your back on this tradition and think that everything you teach has to be from the United States or from the West.
True.
go into your own tradition, you're going to find plenty of worthwhile topics that you can teach from your own tradition.
True. That's
And as you
amazing.
say, yes, as you say, there's a parapsychological tradition in India under a different words, different vocabulary, of
Yes.
course.
Yes.
And so uh, that makes it a little bit easier for parapsychological topics to be discussed in Indian universities.
Yes. Yes. Thank you, Dr. Krippner. Um, I think it's just there amongst the people. People know about it. They talk, they discuss, but it's still not recognized even in India. Though we come from a culture where we can talk about the seven chakras, the auric field, and one can see the aura colors and talk about which energy systems are blocked and which energy systems are active. All of those things, yet there are times when people here as well are quite, they feel that they're very logical and they come from a critic perspective and say that, oh, we don't think that these things exist, and they still want to live in a kind of a bubble which says that fine, this is there, but this is not for me as yet. But I'm amazed that you have been here and you've spoken at colleges, and wish I had met you when you were here while you were in India. It would have been really great to have met you here. But nevertheless, at least I can get to talk to you in person. That's more profound for me. Okay, so first let me ask you, which colleges in India would be interested doing research in consciousness? I know that Birla Institute, BITS Pilani is doing a lot on consciousness studies with, I think, in association with Berkeley. But would you be able to guide the viewers more on which other universities would be out here who would be part of this research in paranormal
Oh,
or
good heavens.
parapsychology?
I'm not an expert, but I've lectured at Andhra University in Visakhapatnam.
Yes, Andhra University, correct.
Mhm. And I've lectured in the South, I've lectured in the West. I would have to track down the names of the universities and get back to you rather
Sure,
than just take a guess.
sure, not an
Too
issue.
many, yeah, too many universities for me to remember offhand from around the
Yes,
world. Mhm.
true, true, true. So that's amazing. We've had a good conversation. Possibly, if you would want to throw some insight on alien beings and are we really alone? If you have had any kind of cyclical experiences in alien beings, or have had anyone who's come across alien beings, if you would want to share that with us, that would be exciting.
I don't have any personal experience along those lines, and I do have a few friends who claim that they have been abducted and returned to Earth, whether that was a dream or their imagination or something that actually happened, I don't know. But I do have friends who have made those claims. I think that you're going to find much more attention being paid to the topic right now because the US government is extremely secretive in comparison with some of the governments around the world, especially Brazil and France, where the uh, space officials are much more forthcoming on what they have found out and what they have learned about supposed alien beings and the crafts. And there now are a few videos and films that the US government is releasing that are very puzzling, not easily explained. So one just has to hang in there and watch for events to unfold and maintain their curiosity and maybe not jump to conclusions until more facts are in.
True, true that. We're all wanting planet B so that we can all escape the climate change and all of the damage that has happened to planet Earth. So I guess that's why the interest in alien beings and another planet is coming to the foray now. So
And
true.
by the same token, maybe this is why the alien beings are interested in us because we're creating such a mess on the planet. And maybe that mess is affecting other parts of space. At this point, we
Wow.
don't really know. But especially if we started to use nuclear bombs again, this is something that might have consequences beyond what's just happening on planet Earth.
True. Yes, possibly. Thank you, Doctor. And is there anything more that you would want to share with us or you would want to tell us? We are happy to share your message across before we end today's session, today's jam with you. So if you want to share anything, please
Oh, I
go right
just have
ahead.
one final thought. People say are interested in studying psychics who claim to see colors come out from the various chakras.
Yes.
Well, this is something that can be studied in a number of ways. I had three students who were interested in the topic, and I put them in three different rooms, and then the person they were studying was in the fourth room. And the person who they were studying was in contact with the healer, and the healer would send energy to that person from a different room. So the three people would note the colors that they saw coming out of the person who was being healed. Now, the interesting thing is they all saw different colors. However, they did see the colors coming out at the same time. So something was going on here, maybe some burst of energy, and the people who were observing, the psychics who were observing, supplied their own colors. We don't know, but this is the beginning of what could have been a much longer study. So any of these claims that are being made can be taken at face value, but they can also be studied experimentally.
How amazing. So, doctor, what I do is in my course, I teach people how to read auras and colors. And most of the time, the participants that I have taught are clearly bang on because we transpire it to their everyday problems and what they are going through currently in life, and not just reading the color. So if a particular chakra is blocked and if we see that this color is being emitted, we tell that person that possibly, that you have like a heart chakra blocked, then it is a problem with the relationship with their parent or with their spouse specifically. So I have a complete group of people who are now psychics and who can actually read colors beautifully and are absolutely right on target with what kind of problem the other person is facing.
Well, good. You see, you're doing a reality check. You're actually taking the impressions that they're getting and trying to see if there is a real life aspect to it.
Yes, doctor.
Interesting. Yes, yes. Mhm.
So even when we do telepathic communication, we actually do it to resolve a particular problem in the life of that person. And then I have these people on my group. So when it gets sorted, they write to me and they say, oh, when we did the course and after a few months or a couple of months, this issue has got sorted. And probably, parents, fathers who were not talking to their children from a long, long time, they come back and they start talking after the telepathic communication happens. So,
Fascinating, fascinating. Well, keep up the good work and goodbye to your listeners. And I hope you all continue your studies.
yes, thank you very much. Dr. Krippner, it was amazing talking to you, and it's truly an honor. And we are done. Okay. So
Okay.
you
So
have a good
long.
day.
Thank
Yes.
you. You too. Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.